Welcome to Enterprising People 702. So happy that you joined us in fabulous Las Vegas. Listen, I'm so very excited about today's show, but I want to remind you to just push that like button and subscribe, because each and every episode will be sent to you so you can see the new episodes. Now, without any further ado, I have to get to my guest. I'm very excited about this new book. And again, it's our U.S. Senator Cory Booker, and he's written a book called Stand, and I'm so very excited. So Senator Booker, thank you so much for joining us.
Are you kidding me? You are like a sister to me, because you know my family out there in Las Vegas, my aunt, my uncle, my mom lives out there, and I just feel so connected to you. So I'm grateful to be on in this conversation. I hope those people push that subscribe button, because you're one of those voices we need right now in our communities to sustain us, to inform us, to uplift us. So thank you for being one of those folks during tough times who's always there.
Oh, thank you, Senator. But the book, Stand, that's what I want to really focus on, because you've done so much to help the disenfranchised. You have done so much to just help America in general. But you wrote a book, Stand, and it's just recently released. Tell us about the book and why you felt it was so necessary to call the book Stand.
Well, so many people, wherever I go, ask me, what can I do? What should we be doing? And so I wanted to write an answer to that is both inspiration and instruction. And it's really about stories from our history, from average Americans doing extraordinary things in very difficult times, people who stood up at times where we needed that. And so this is a book that I'm really proud of. And if you read it, and this is why historians like Doris Kearns Goodwin and Henry Louis Gates really wrote praise for the book and helped it to get at the top of the New York Times bestseller list, because they knew that the best thing about American history is not the people that held high offices. It's about what we, the people, did during times of trial. And that's really what I wanted to celebrate, the best of human virtue in the worst of times. That's how we overcame.
Yeah. And how do you think people are doing as far as leveraging advocacy with assimilation? A lot of people are afraid to speak out and to stand, so to speak, because they think there might be some repercussions with that.
Well, there often are. This is a time where a president has come after our universities and our law firms. If they don't say and do or represent who he wants them to do, he's showing retribution. I've seen this even in government. There are thousands of people who are leaving government because they were being forced to do things that they thought weren't right. And so out of good conscience, they're standing up and being conscientious objectors. So it is a very difficult time. And we are seeing more and more, even just the attacks people might get on the internet. But Malcolm X reminded us, if you are not being criticized for something, you're probably doing nothing, saying nothing, and standing for nothing. To stand up means that you're going to take some incoming. But to me, that's the debt we owe. People stood for us. They fell for us. They watered the soil we stand on with their tears and their blood. And this is one of those moments that calls for us. And the great thing in the book, I show this, you don't have to do everything. I say very explicitly, never allow your inability to do everything to undermine your determination to do something. Do the best you can with what you have where you are. There was a guy in the book I talked about who just decided to give one more hour a week of volunteer time. And he ended up setting off dominoes into history that affected generations before he was born just by 1 hour of volunteering. So you never underestimate that when you touch a life, how that is going to radiate out into the world and make a difference that you may never know about or see. King said it so clearly. The thing that we have to repent for is not just the vitriolic words and violent actions of the bad people. It's the appalling silence and inaction of the good people.
Yeah. And bringing up Dr. Martin Luther King, before he was assassinated, he was on the journey for the fight for the poor people. And it was an economic fight. And I was wondering, how are you describing the fight that we're presently in as it relates to our democracy, as it relates to economics? How would you define the new civil rights?
Well, I hate to say it, but it does come down to those things of money and power. And so right now we're seeing large financial interests. I see it in Washington trying to corrupt our democracy. Billionaires and the wealthiest corporations trying to rewrite the rules so that they are paying less in taxes and we're bearing more of the burden. Or worse, they're trying to do what this president is letting people do, to pollute more, to more toxins in our air, to put more poisons on our food. It is amazing to me. I'm fighting at the Supreme Court right now. I wrote a amicus brief over these chemical companies that want to continue to drench our food in things that are, I think, spiking the cancer rates. And so that's the money problem. And then the power, we're seeing it. They're trying to go back to an era where people in power could do things to curtail the voting rights and the representation rights of the people. And so I was just down in Montgomery and Birmingham, Alabama, standing with people who are in this fight because of what the Supreme Court did to gut the Voting Rights Act. I literally met people that were on the Edmund Pettus Bridge that fateful day and who couldn't realize that they were going to have to fight in their elder years, one woman in a wheelchair, to continue to fight to secure our power. And so this is the time, those are strong forces of money and forces trying to take away our power. And the only way to meet this crisis is not by less engagement, but by more, not by sitting it out, but by standing up.
Yes, Stand, the book. I know everyone, you have to read the book. Again, I love the fact that you actually describe what we can do as Americans, because sometimes we do feel hopeless. What can I do? You hear that a lot. People say, well, I don't have a significant position. So really, what can I do? Do you believe marching in the streets right now, especially, I think the elephant in the room is this whole redistricting for voting. So do you believe that marching is really something that we have to really stick to, or where would you like to see it go further as far as our advocacy?
Well, I think all of us have to decide what can I do. Not everybody can get out and trust me, I know the Vegas heat because I'm out there visiting my mom all the time. Not everybody can march outside. My mom lives in a place called Las Fontanas and right across from the Red Rock Casino, and her senior community. There are a lot of folks that are not going to go out and march in the hot sun. But you know what they do? They make phone calls. They donate $5 to an immigration rights organization. They find ways to support those who are out there supporting others. My mom was in a sit-in in Charlottesville, but she told me when she was at Fisk, a lot of the time that what they did was support the people that were doing the sit-ins, helping them with their homework or finding ways to make sure they got the notes from class. And so there's always something we can do besides just sit back and complain about what's wrong in the world and not realizing we can be about it. Here in Newark, we're having this crisis right now at Delaney Hall, where it's a private for-profit company that's running this prison here, literally making $1 billion contract off of the backs of people that are not criminals. There are people that have been in our city and our community for 10, 20, 30 years, American spouses, American children, American grandchildren. And, there's a lot of organizations. If you can't go out and protest, you can support the ACLU. You can support a group called Make the Road. So there's a lot of things to do. And maybe I'll give you one specific example of why I think people underestimate their power. And it was not when we had a metaphorical storm, because I think we've got a metaphorical storm in our democracy threatening to sweep away our rights. But it was a time in New Jersey of a literal storm. It was Hurricane Sandy. And I was the mayor of the city I'm sitting in right now. And I was out in my command vehicle, driven by 2 police officers. We were doing one more sweep of the city moments before the full brunt of the storm was going to hit. And I was telling people to get off the streets and taking notes of conditions. And as I'm driving along, I get a call that begins with what I thought was the stupidest question in America. I answer the phone and the person says, "Hello, this is the White House operator. Will you hold for the President of the United States?" And I'm like, who says no to that question? And so next voice I hear is President Barack Obama. And he is checking in on me from the Oval Office and the people of the city of Newark. I was moved by the call. And by the time I hang up, he had lifted my spirits. But as soon as I hang up, my phone rings again. This time, no operator. It's the governor of my state, Chris Christie at the time. He's a Republican, I'm a Democrat. But this is not a time for partisan politics. There's a storm in our midst, and he's doing the same thing. Kindness, outreach, connection. How are we going to work together in this crisis? It was another beautiful call. But when I hang up with him, we're now on a hill, and I see through the thunderstorm, the rain that was punishing our windshield, I make out a light at the top of the hill, swinging back and forth. And I'm like, what is that light? As we get closer, I see it's a man swinging this light. And then when we get closer, I now see behind him, all the trees at the top of the hill had fallen down. And they pulled down the telephone poles and the wires. It was a mess of wire and wood. And when we got there, my officers pulled me around, so my window was right in front of him. And I roll down the window, and I see an elderly man in a yellow slicker holding his big light. And I yell at him over the rain and the wind so he could hear me. I yell at him, what are you doing out here?
Yeah.
And he looks at me like I asked him the stupidest question in America. He points over at the shattered wood and twisted wires. And he said, Mayor, it's so dangerous here. I'm standing out here so no one comes along and gets hurt. I will never forget for the rest of my life, on the most dangerous storm of my lifetime that hit my state, that the greatness I best observed was not the president of the United States who I talked to, was not the governor of the state who I talked to. I'm the mayor of the largest city, but the greatness I best saw exhibited, that in a time of crisis, a man stood atop a hill in a savage storm, in dark of night, holding up a light so that other people would not get hurt. In times of crisis, you don't have to do everything. Just hold up your light, stand up, bring a little light into somebody else's life. Maybe today you can't go out and march, but you can call somebody. Maybe it's just calling somebody that's shut in, or calling somebody to check in on them, or calling somebody to create community and just say, hey, these are tough times. Maybe we should get a Zoom call or for all of us to talk about ideas that we can do to help from our own homes or our own apartments. This is a time like that elderly man on top of a hill in a terrible storm that we all just got to find a way to stand up and shine a little brighter.
Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of people believe, because again, in 2020, you ran for president yourself, United States president. That was very exciting. Let me stop there. What provoked you to say, I'm going to run for president? I remember my brother when we were younger, he was saying, I'm going to be president of the United States. But you actually threw your hat in the ring and you got in there. I was wondering what really provoked you to say, I'm going to run for president?
Look, I have a lot of really big policy ideas that I think could make big change for people, put more money in people's pocket, help make work in America pay again. But there's also a spiritual component. You know, I was taught in my small church I grew up in, I'm about to go to church after this call, whenever 2 or 3 are gathered together in his name, he is in the midst. It's this idea that strength and even magic comes whenever people come together around common cause and a faith in who we are and the power of the universe. Well, we're the same thing in this country. Our hallmark is e pluribus unum, out of many one. And I think our nation is in crisis right now because we're so divided against each other. We've lost our sense of common cause and common purpose. And as we pledge allegiance to this nation, we need to remember that call to put more indivisible into this one nation under God. And so I ran for president then, and I hope my leadership still stands for now, this idea that the lines that divide us are not nearly as strong as the ties that bind us. We need leaders in this country that are going to unify us, get us all rowing in the same direction, because together we can do great things and we can banish this absurdity. I would call it this moral obscenity that in America, millions don't have health care or can't afford their prescription drugs. We're better than that. That we can banish this reality that people are working harder and harder and still falling behind, that we have something called the working poor that should not exist, that we can banish this idea that in America, people who worked all their lives retire not to security, but to insecurity. There's so much we are greater than what we're experiencing right now, and we can't solve these problems by beating other people down. We solve them by coming together and lifting the whole nation up.
Wow. That's so true. Well, I hope you throw it in again, throw that at it again, because we need. I look for character when I'm voting in the voting booth. We're voting now here in Nevada, and I think about character. I think about that person that sees me. But Senator, you seem to always have that deep connection with the people, and we appreciate that. But also, now I have to talk about how you stood stood on the
Yes.
Senate floor for 25 hours, 5 minutes, I believe. Did I get a minute off?
You got it right. You got it right.
Okay. And I was wondering, what was the biggest takeaway from doing something like that?
Well, I was stunned at, we had these social media companies call us like TikTok and said 340 million people liked it, pressed that like button. Like we're going to get people to press the subscribe button with you. And what it really showed me is that if you stand up, you are going to ignite other people to stand up. You're going to inspire other people to do more. That we all lean on each other. We're all connected to each other. And I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know if I could make it that long, but I knew I needed to stand up in a time of trial. And what inspired me is I still meet people today. And so that was the moment they realized they had to do more, that if I could do that, they were going to do something else. And I think that's what we do. There's this researcher at the university I went to, Stanford, that studies kindness. And she found out that she was able to measure this. I think it goes further, but this is what she measured, that if you do a kind deed and somebody witnesses it, you change their behavior. You actually first change their biology because they witness what you're doing. They get a burst of dopamine and these biochemicals that lift their spirit. But it actually could change their action. And she could trace that one kind deed radiates and could change the behavior of people 3 degrees of separation. So I just saw from my experience and breaking Strom Thurmond's record. His record was set when he blocked civil rights legislation. What I saw there was that you stand up and you stand for what you believe in, and you ultimately inspire others to do the same. And I'm going to try to do more in my leadership that shows that I'm willing to go the extra mile or do a little bit more, because I can't ask other people to do something that I'm not willing to show myself.
Yeah, definitely. And when I attended Spelman College, I used to study W.E.B. Du Bois, and it was mandatory to read his biography. And he talked about the talented 10th. And the smartest people, the most talented people, you only need 10 good people to make a positive change. Now, I was thinking, given our present situation, what can we take away from that? Can a dialogue take place where you have 5, let's say, left and 5 right, or 5 Democrats, 5 Republicans, but somehow we can come together in dialogue to make the positive change? What do you think about that?
I think it's so true. Look, I have gotten a lot of big bills passed in the Senate, not with just Democrats, but by reaching across the aisle to work with Republicans. One of them, called the First Step Act, I worked under the Obama administration. He went out of office, still kept working it with Republicans, and we eventually got this big criminal justice bill passed through the Senate and the House into the president's desk, and he signed it. It's now liberated thousands and thousands of people from unjust incarceration. And I'm really proud of that. But it wouldn't have gotten done if I didn't open up friendships and talk to people. Even though we disagree on big things, it doesn't mean that I'm going to stop remembering how I was taught to love my neighbor. There's no exceptions put on that. Love my neighbor if they vote like me. Love my neighbor if they pray like me. No, my calling of my faith is to love my neighbor unconditionally. And love means that you communicate even when it's hard. Love means that you open doors and don't close them. You build bridges and don't tear them down. Love always makes sure that hate and despair never have the last word. And that's been a great formula for my life in getting things done that other people said couldn't be done, is because I found a way to, even if there's just one string of humanity that's connecting us, we can still weave that into something that could be beautiful.
Yeah. And again, the book Stand, we're excited about it. But tell us, what do you want us to take away from your book?
Well, I hope people, if you're feeling low, if you're feeling worried or fearful, if you're feeling that you're not enough, please read this book. If anything it's going to do for you is it's going to show you that you don't need a title or a position or money to make a difference. This book is full of incredibly inspiring stories that show you that any of us, just with determination and will and the willingness to stand, we can actually change the world. And I tell people all the time, today, this day, you may not be able to change the world, but you can make a world of change for just one person. So please, if you're feeling if you're struggling right now and you need something to sustain, inform, and inspire you, just take a read. And it's separated into 10 chapters. You don't have to read the book from the cover. You can pick the chapter that inspires you. There's titles of each one. If you just need 10 pages of inspiration, I hope folks will open the book and read.
Yeah. And how do we get the book?
Anywhere. It's in bookstores. It's online. It hit number 2 on the New York Times bestseller list. So there are a lot of them out there. I was very excited that it got that high. So it's very available, and I hope you'll pick up a copy. And they make good graduation presents too. As I was told yesterday, one of my friends got it for a graduate, and got a nice note from that.
All right, Senator Cory Booker, thank you so much for being on Enterprising People 702. Again, we appreciate you so much, and we will continue to stand. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope to come back on again soon.
Yes, please. All right.
Okay.
I want to thank you, too, for being Enterprising People. And again, push the subscribe button and push the like button. And again, I would really appreciate it. Thank you for listening to Enterprising People from fabulous Las Vegas.